Imagine accepting a ride from a seemingly ordinary couple. A few hours later, you're locked in a coffin-sized box underneath a stranger's bed. Unable to move, unable to see, and worried that if you do try to escape, a secret organization is going to hunt down and kill your family. For 7 years, this was the reality of Colleen Stan. Her story is one of the most disturbing kidnapping cases in American history. It's a story of unimaginable cruelty, psychological torture, and incredible resilience. But unlike so many true crime stories, this one has something different. A survivor. This is the story of Colleen Stan, better known as the girl in the box. Before Colleen Stan became known as the girl in the box, she was simply a young woman with her whole life ahead of her. Born on December 31st, 1956, Colleen grew up in Eugene, Oregon. Friends and family described her as kind, independent, adventurous, and loved being in the outdoors. She enjoyed horseback riding and had plans of traveling while she was still young. Like many young people during the 1970s, Colleen often hitchhiked to get around. While it sounds incredibly dangerous today, this was very common among young people during this time, especially young adults looking for an inexpensive way to travel. She wasn't careless though. Over the years, she created her own safety rules to keep herself safe. She generally refused rides from men and only accepted rides from young couples or families or just women in general. To her, they seemed much less threatening, and those rules had kept her safe before. On May 19, 1977, 20-year-old Colleen was traveling from Eugene, Oregon to Westwood, California, where she planned to attend her friend's birthday party. Her family wasn't worried as she had made trips like this many times before, and she was expected to arrive later that afternoon. Standing beside Interstate 5, Colleen patiently waited for somebody to stop. Eventually, a blue van pulled over. Inside that blue van were 23-year-old Cameron Hooker, his 19-year-old wife Janice, and their infant daughter. To Colleen, this looked like the safest ride possible. A young family, a smiling couple, and a baby in the back seat. She climbed in. This would be her last decision as a free woman for the next 7 years. At first, the journey appeared completely normal. The group chatted casually as they traveled through South California, and there was nothing to suggest the nightmare that was about to unfold. Cameron suddenly pulled the van over on a quiet stretch of road. Without warning, everything changed. He pulled out a knife. Before Colleen had time to react, he tied her up. Then he placed a homemade wooden box over her head. The device completely covered her head and neck, blocking almost all light and muffling any sound around her. She couldn't see, she couldn't scream, and she had no idea where they were going. When they arrived at the Hookers' home in Red Bluff, California, Cameron revealed just how much planning had gone into this kidnapping. Beneath the couple's waterbed was a specially built wooden box. It was barely large enough for a person to fit inside. This tiny space would become Colleen's prison. For days at a time, she would remain locked inside the box, underneath the bed. She couldn't stretch her legs, she couldn't stand, and she couldn't tell whether it was day or night. She often spent up to 23 hours a day confined in that box. As days became weeks and weeks became months, time lost all meaning. While the physical imprisonment was horrific, Cameron's greatest weapons wasn't chains or locks. It was fear. He convinced Colleen that he belonged to a dangerous organization only known as the Company. According to Cameron, this secret group had members all across America. If she tried to escape, if she spoke to police, if she even disobeyed him, the Company would torture and murder her family. Completely isolated from the outside world, Colleen believed him. It was entirely a fabrication to keep her obedient, and it worked. As the years passed, Cameron slowly gave Colleen more freedom. She was eventually allowed to work around the property. Later, he even let her get a job as a hotel maid. And most unbelievably of all, sometimes Cameron even allowed Colleen to visit her family. Imagine seeing your parents after years and years of captivity. Imagine being only meters away from freedom. Yet Colleen said nothing. She smiled, she hugged her family, and then she willingly returned to her captor. To many people, that seems impossible. But experts say this demonstrates just how much control that Cameron had over Colleen, with all the psychological abuse and coercive control that he used to make her scared. Colleen truly believed that escaping would put her family in peril. Throughout these years, Cameron's wife Janice remained in her own abusive captivity. Initially, she had only participated because she feared Cameron, but over time, the guilt became unbearable. She began questioning everything. Finally, in 1984, Janice could no longer stay silent. She privately spoke to Colleen, and then she told her something that changed everything. The company isn't real. Just those few words shattered years and years of psychological control. And for the first time since 1977, Colleen realized that she had been manipulated. She left, and this time, she never came back. Not long after Colleen escaped, Janice actually contacted the police and told them everything. Investigators were stunned, to say the least. Inside the Hooker home, they found the box that was used to confine Colleen for all these years, and a lot of evidence supporting Colleen's horrifying account. And without Janice's testimony, many believe Cameron may have never faced justice. In 1985, Cameron Hooker was convicted of kidnapping and multiple sexual assault charges. And he was sentenced to 104 years in prison, which, in my opinion, is not long enough. And after serving many, many years, he was repeatedly denied because authorities considered him an ongoing danger. Good. Escaping captivity wasn't the end of Colleen's journey. She still had to rebuild a life that was stolen from her. Despite enduring 7 years of psychological and physical abuse, she refused to let Cameron define the rest of her life. Over the years, Colleen has spoken publicly about her experience, helping others understand the effects of trauma, coercive control, and psychological abuse. Her courage has inspired countless survivors around the world.
Colleen lived that nightmare for 7 years, much of it in a box under Cameron Hooker's bed.
I think the thing that shocks people the most when they hear about your case, I mean, yes, the torture shocks them and the sexual abuse, but having to spend all that time in that box under his bed. I mean, what would you think about in there?
In your mind, you can go anywhere and you can do anything, you know. And I've heard a lot of POWs say that they did the same thing I did. And you just have to go someplace else in your mind. You have to think good thoughts and nice thoughts. And I thought of my family. I went on picnics with my family. I went on holidays with my family. I went to good and nice places.
Colleen says she isn't religious, but she truly feels God spoke to her during those dark times in the basement.
Well, he was torturing me one night down in the basement, and he kind of slithered up next to me and he says, "Go ahead and scream, I'll cut your vocal cords, I've done it before." And immediately God spoke to me and said, "Do not scream, he is telling you the truth." I did what God said. I didn't scream. I never screamed when he tortured me because I didn't want him to cut my vocal cords.
Her captor's reference to doing it before is mentioned in the film, and Colleen says references another young woman who went missing before Colleen's capture. It is the only time she cries during our interview.
I don't want to cry. But, you know, I feel so bad for Marliz, and, you know, I think because she was the first victim and things just got totally out of control, and he did the things that he did to her, and eventually he choked her to death.
Marie Elizabeth Sponicky was never found, but Colleen saw her every day.
He kept this picture of her, and in this space in between the pedestal of the bed and the actual box that he kept me in under his waterbed, there was a space, and he had my purse in there and my personal things, I guess, in it. And then he had this picture of this woman that he had propped up against my purse. So every time I got in and out of the box, I saw this picture of this woman.
Only after her escape did Colleen find out the woman in the picture was Sponicky.
I wasn't his first victim. You know, I was just the one that survived. It's still life after such a tragic thing, and I hope that that's what my story is to people, that they will see that, you know, we all have some kind of trauma or tragedy in our lives at some point, and I just hope that they can see that, you know, I made it through this, that they can get through whatever's going on in their lives, and you know, that things can be some kind of semblance of normal again.
Most true crime stories end in tragedy. This one ends in survival. Colleen endured years inside of a wooden box. She lost 7 years of her life, and yet she escaped. And she helped convict the man responsible. And she proved that even after years of manipulation and abuse, healing is possible. Her story reminds us that prisons aren't always built with steel bars. Sometimes they're built with fear. If you found Colleen's story as unbelievable as I did, let me know in the comments what true crime case you'd like me to cover next. And if you enjoy true crime videos, there's internet mysteries and urban legends, as well as creepypasta stories read on Saturdays, make sure that you subscribe to my channel and give this video a like if you're feeling spicy. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye!